Welcome back, Endgame community. I'm Pierre, he's Chris. We're here to talk about some wide receivers today that we think are being underrated based on early ADP, and you should really consider, especially if you're doing early drafts, best ball, whatever you can think of. So let's start out, Chris. Who's a wide receiver you think isn't high enough in the ranking?
Well, I got another crusty old veteran, and this time it's Brandin Cooks. This is a guy who just every year performs and puts up numbers. And even last year, people were a little nervous because it was going to be some combination of Tyrod Taylor or Davis Mills, and it didn't matter. He was still really good. Sure, he has his down weeks because he's on the Houston Texans, but he's the target monster there. He gets a huge target share in Houston, and Davis Mills looked the part down the stretch, right? He's not like a world beater. He's not going to be, Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or anything, but he looked more than good enough. And if he can continue to build on that, Brandin Cooks is locked into a monster target share and who's barely being drafted inside the top 30 wide receivers, who gives you massive, week winning upside every single week with a pretty decent floor. And people don't want to draft him because, I don't know, he's old and he's on the Texans, I guess. So to me, Brandin Cooks, once again, another great value in fantasy drafts. No, doesn't have the sexy name of some of these other guys, but it'll get it done for your fantasy team. So don't ignore him on draft day.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be a young guy, right? Sometimes those veterans are the best values. My player, first one I want to talk about, is someone who I know, interestingly enough, a lot of people in the fantasy community think might be overrated because, well, he's on Baltimore and they just don't throw the ball. Except that they did last year, one of the top 10 teams in terms of pass attempts. So I'm going to go with their top receiver, that's Rashad Bateman. So let me start first by saying that if you were with us, if you watched our videos way before a year ago, before last year's NFL draft, and remember my top three rookies, of course, with Jamar Chase, did have him number one. And then I also like Rashad Bateman and Elijah Moore. Rashad Bateman is now going to be the guy who is going to have a chance to show what he can do as the alpha in that offense because, of course, Marquise Brown was traded, surprisingly, to Arizona. Last year, Marquise Brown, as the number one receiver in Baltimore, was the fantasy wide receiver 22 in total points. So now Bateman basically steps into that role as a second-year player, as a player really who should be more of a target hog because, Hollywood was more of a deep threat. He needed to use his speed to get by the secondary. Bateman can command attention across the middle of the field on those quick outs. I think he's going to see more of a target share. To me, I think a top 25 receiver for him, that's kind of his floor, assuming he stays healthy. Last year, Lamar Jackson wasn't on the field all season. If Lamar Jackson is healthy, Rashad Bateman is healthy, a full season, we could easily see a top 20, if not even higher, finish from Rashad Bateman. People think, oh, we're going to overreact, because of the Hollywood situation. No, this makes perfect sense. He should move way up in your rankings. And so Bateman to me is a guy, it's criminal that he's being ranked this low this early. So absolutely going to have a ton of him this year. All right, Chris, let's move on. Who's your next underrated receiver?
A young, sexy name, and that is Devonta Smith of the Eagles. You're kind of moving up the ranks before the NFL draft when the Eagles went out and traded for A.J. Brown. And now people are kind of backing off again. They're worried that he's not going to have a big enough target share in this offense to be fantasy relevant alongside A.J. Brown. And I disagree because I just think Devonta Smith is really good at football. And I think people who are really good at football are going to find a way. This is a guy who had over 900 yards last year in one of the run-heaviest offenses, catching passes from Jalen Hurts. Having A.J. Brown on the other side is only going to help Devonta Smith because no defense was worried about Jalen Reagor or Quez Watkins or Greg Ward or any of those other wide receivers last year. It's going to be a lot tougher for defenses this year. Second year for Jalen Hurts under this system with Nick Sirianni. I think he's going to take a step forward. He's going to get better. I think Devonta Smith will be even better this year. I could see him eclipsing 1,000 yards. Almost certainly is going to catch more touchdowns, probably going to have more receptions. Take the discount, the A.J. Brown discount, I guess. People are worried that A.J. Brown is going to be the guy and Devonta Smith is going to be forgotten. This is a great young talent, second-year wide receiver. Take that discount every chance you can.
Yeah, a lot of times having a good receiver opposite, someone like him to complement him, that actually helps, right? Because then the defense can't just focus on one guy. Look, Hurts probably has more chemistry right now with Devonta Smith because he's actually played with him. Maybe he's the leading receiver for Philly. Who knows? My last pick here is a guy that, well, he's going to be the top target, most likely, for arguably the, if not at least one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Depending on what you think about Aaron Rodgers, doesn't matter. He's still one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL. So who's his top target? Of course, it's going to be Allen Lazard. Realistically, we know that Davante Adams just vacated a ton of targets. One of the top 5 target getters for the past couple of years. Those targets have to go somewhere. Are they going to go to Sammy Watkins? Probably not. Are they going to go to Amari Rodgers? Probably not. What about their rookie Christian Watson? Look, I love his athleticism. I love watching the tape of him playing at North Dakota State. It's going to take some time for him, okay? Allen Lazard is the guy who really has the best rapport with Rodgers. I think Lazard is going to be the main target here. Now, I'm not saying he's going to come anywhere close to Davante Adams' numbers. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the fact that he's being drafted like a wide receiver 5 or 6 in fantasy does not make sense. He's going to see a jump. Obviously in his production, his target share. This is a guy who's already produced like a top 50 fantasy receiver last year. He's a big body. He can get red zone receptions. I think the fact that he's going to be the top target for Rodgers most likely means he should be on rosters almost everywhere. So definitely going to be undervalued at this point. All right, those are some of our favorite receivers who are being slept on. We're also going to do the flip side of this and talk about some guys who are a little bit overrated, so don't miss that video. Of course, we talk about running backs as well. Got you covered all off season long to get you ready for fantasy football season. All right, thanks for watching.